Hello everyone. In this lecture, we would be covering our next topic, that is functions. Functions is generally considered the most, you can say, toughest topic in Python. And many of the students quit programming due to functions and recursion. We would be covering both of them in a very simpler way, and I would be covering each and every topic in very ease and in a very slow speed. And for that, you must have to pay attention if you want to learn both function and recursion in a very simpler way. We would be discussing it in a single video. So you just have to pay a very serious attention while doing these topics, as these are the most important topics in Python. So first we would be discussing functions. So, functions is basically a block of code which is used to perform a specific task. Now, you would say, if we can print anything simpler, why do we have to enclose it in a function? So, let's say I want to print sum of two numbers. Let's take a very simple example. Now, if you say I have to print the sum of two numbers, let's consider it in a variable A and in a variable B. Now, if I suppose I have to print the sum of these, so I can simply do my A plus B operator. So, why do we need functions? Now, suppose today I write such a simpler code, but in industries we don't write such simpler codes. Now, after some time, suppose I have written some more code here. Now, after so much time, we have to again print the sum of two numbers. Uh, so we would be again doing storing it in a variable and printing the sum. Now, in this way, the readability of our code becomes poor. What do you mean by readability? Readability means how easily a programmer or a developer can read our program, or a viewer can view our program. So the same thing we can do with the help of functions. We can uh, reduce the readability of the code by using functions. So what function does is we simply have to just write a block of code, and when we call that code, it would simply perform the same task again and again, and we don't have to write such longer codes again and again. This was very simpler example. In companies, the code is very much long, so in that case we use functions so that we can reuse our code again and again without writing a lot of lines of codes. So now we would be discussing how can we write a function. Now let me first delete all this part. Now for writing a function, we use our keyword def, which tells that we are defining a function. Now after def, we would be writing our function name. Suppose I want to add two numbers, so I would simply write a function name, that is add. After that, we would be using our parentheses. In parentheses, we would be writing our parameters. You don't have to be like in a very situation like what we are writing. I would simply explain the code after writing it. So in the parentheses, we would be writing our parameters. What does the parameters does? It tells what the input is the user taking. So suppose I want to print sum of two numbers, so I would simply take two numbers A and B. So the input is A and B. Now I would simply use a semicolon. In the next line, I would be uh, using an indentation, and after that, we would simply write uh, the task that we will do. So I would write task that we will do. So after defining our function, we write what the task we will do. So what we will be doing, we will be printing sum of a plus b. Now we have done the task as well. Now the next thing we would be doing is that we would call our function. What do you mean by call? Basically, now if suppose I print my function, there would be nothing printed. Why? Because we didn't have given values to a and b. Without giving the values to a and b, nothing will be printed. So we would be calling our function. So I would call my function by giving the same function name, that is add. Now in the add, suppose I want to print the sum of 4 and 5. So I would simply write 4 and 5. Now if I print it, it would print 9. You can see the sum of 4 and 5 is 9. So it's very simpler way to write a function. And suppose again we don't have to suppose I want to add two numbers after a lot of time. So we want so we don't need to write the operation again, that is a plus b. We simply call our function, that is add, and give the values to it. So what we would be giving, suppose I want the sum of 3 and 4. So I would write 3 comma 4. Now it would simply print 7. So you can see the readability of our code becomes easy. We don't have to write a long code again and again. We will store our data, then we will print our data. We don't have to do these things. Just call our function. So this was the simplest method how we write functions in Python. Now we would be understanding the code once again in a very simpler manner. Suppose first we would be using our def keyword, which suggests that we are defining a function. After that, we will be using our function name, that is add. In the parenthesis, we can write our parameters, which the user would be giving as a input. So in the uh, function, we will do the task what we want. Suppose I want to print the sum of two numbers. So I would simply print a plus b. And after that, we would be returning from the function and call our function for the values. Now, when we call our function, the values that we are enclosing in the parentheses are our arguments. Arguments suggest on what values do we have to do the operation. So like in the first one, we have to do operations on 4 and 5, and what operation should be done, it is defined in the function, which is we have to do their sum. So this was a very simpler example. Let me take another example. Suppose I have to print hello world. I can simply write print hello world. So you would ask why there is a need of Python function while we can easily print hello world with print statement. Suppose I want to print hello world 10 times. You will say that we can copy paste it, but how many times? Suppose if there is a task to print hello world a lot of times, or 10,000 times, how can I print it? So we will not be copy pasting it 10,000 times. So we will enclose it in a function. Now, how we define our function, we would be using def keyword and using our function name, that let's suppose we take print hello. So now in parameters, we don't need any value because we are not performing operation on two things. So we can leave it empty. And one more important thing, we can leave the parameters empty. There is no objection on it. So now after that, we will print our hello world. We are assigning the task in the Python function, inside the function. Sorry. So now we will simply call print hello. Now in the arguments also we don't have to print, we don't need anything. We are not performing operation on anything. So we can leave it empty as well. So while I run it, it is also printing hello world. Now if I want to print hello world, now simply we can copy paste it and we can write many number of times. So let's suppose I want to run it 4 times. So it is printing hello world 4 times. We don't have to write the print statement again and again. So this was another method. Now suppose I want to calculate the average of three numbers. We can also do that with the help of functions. Suppose I take a function def and a function name is average. So I would be inputting three inputs, three parameters. Why? Because we have to perform some operations. So I would simply take A, B, C. Now, in the next line, first we would be printing our, you can say, 1 minute. Suppose we print A plus B plus C. Now, we would be dividing it by 3. So I simply enclosed it in a parenthesis. Now I do this task. Now if I want to find the average of three numbers, let's suppose we take these three numbers. Now what is the average of these three numbers? It would be 3. So when I print it, sorry, it would be 2. So when I would print it, it would simply give 2. So this was the very basic example of functions. How we write functions, how we call functions. Now, the next thing we would be learning is our return statement. Now, if we want to return a value from the user, we will use our return statement. Now, what does return statement do? Suppose I have some values. Suppose I have a function. Let's say, suppose our average function we take with three parameters A, B, and C. Now, if I want to print the average, we would uh, be earlier using print statement. Now we can return the value as well. We would write our return keyword and after that we would write return A plus B plus C by 3. Now we will be enclosing it in our parenthesis. Now we can simply now comes out of the function. Now when I want to print it, I would be first uh, using a variable to enclose my average function. Suppose I take a variable x and I enclosed average in that. So I would simply now call for what value. Suppose I take values these. So now I would simply print my x. One thing you have to keep in mind is that we would be using a variable when we are using a return statement so we can print it. Now if I print my output, you can also check the output would be 4.33. So this was the use of our return statement. Now the next topic is our keyword, positional arguments and keyword arguments. So there are two types of arguments. Let me write. So there are types of argument. First is our positional argument and second is our keyword argument. So first we would be discussing our positional argument. Now what happens in a positional argument is that, suppose let me take a function. and I'm giving its name as name age. Now we have to print the name and age. So the parameter I would be taking is name and age, and I would print my name and age. So when I call the function, in the argument, I have to, I cannot assign the value of age first, then I assign the value of name. Why? Because in Python by default takes the first value and store it in the name variable. Suppose I take 19 and in the next argument suppose I take Pranav. So if I print it, Python is not smart by itself that it would store 19 in age and Pranav in name. It would by default store the value of 19 in name variable and Pranav in age variable. So we have to keep in mind while doing positional arguments that mm, Python is not smart by itself that it would store the 19 value in name and Pranav value in age. So we would by default have to give values in a sequence order. So I would write Pranav first, then my age. Now if I print it, Pranav and 19 are printed. So it can give you a error while you are like printing Pranav in age and 19 in name. It would not show here, but the values would be stored in different variables. So this was our positional arguments in which we have to give the values to a specific variable. Now we would be discussing keyword arguments. Now what we do in keyword arguments is that first we would be, suppose I take the same case. Now if I print it, suppose I print name age. In that I am printing name is equals to runoff and age is equals to 19. The most important thing is while defining keyword arguments, you have to use a asterisk after that comma. It suggests that you are using a keyword argument. So while I print this, it would be printed successfully. You can see. Now, what if I print like this? It would give the same output. Why? Because in keyword arguments, uh, it is taking the right value. First, we are defining name, so it would give name in the right variable. Now, suppose I print positional argument in keyword argument. Suppose I directly write my name and then age. So it would give a error. You can see why. It is suggesting type error name age takes zero positional arguments but two were given. So it suggests when we are giving a positional argument in a keyword argument, it directly you can see you can say it directly catches that we are using a positional argument in keyword argument. So how do we do we know that it is a keyword argument with the help of asterisk. So it would give a error while we would call positional argument in keyword argument. But if we give a specific keyword to in positional in sorry in keyword argument, then it would print the output. But while using positional argument in keyword argument, it would give a error. So this was the case. So we don't have to use positional arguments in keyword arguments. Now, then our next argument, which is not an argument generally, but still we would be reading it, is our default argument. Now, in our default argument, what we would be covering is, suppose I'm using the simpler example of adding two functions. Suppose I have a and b, and I return my value a plus b. Now when I call my function, suppose I enter 4 and 5. Sorry, I haven't printed it. Now if I print it, it would give output 9. You can see. Suppose I didn't give value here. I am giving only 5. So it would give me an error. Why? Because it is suggesting add function missing one required positional argument b. That is, one positional argument is not given because the value of 5 is been assigned to a. Now we are left with one value. So we cannot add two numbers without two values. So it would give an error. Now suppose I take b as 4 here, but I didn't give the value of b here in argument. But in the parameter I have given b a value. So it would by default take b as 4. Now if I print, it would give 9 because if we are not giving any value in the argument, so it would consider the value which we have given in the parameter. Now suppose if I have not given value here, but there is a value of b, but there is no value of a. So it would still give an error. Like you can see, because the value of positional argument a is missing. So it is therefore necessary to give both of the parameters value. Otherwise, it would take the values of the parameters if we didn't give the values in the argument section. So this was the case. Now if I give value here and suppose I give the value of b as well. So now 4 is being assigned to a. Now what is the case of b? So by default in Python, the value given to argument is being overwritten by the value given to the parameter. So 5 would replace the value of 4 and b would be given the value 5 and a would be 4. So if I print now, it would give 9. So you can say argument parameter, sorry, the value of argument is superior than the parametrical value. This thing you have to keep in mind. So this was the case of our default argument. Now the next thing which we would be covering is, wait a second, let me comment it out. So till now we have done functions, 2 3 questions of functions and the return statement, types of arguments we have covered. So now the next key thing that we would be discussing is, So now we would be covering local and global variables. So first we would be doing local variables. Now, what are local variables? In simpler language, local variables means whose value is only defined within the function. Suppose I have a function def and its name is fun. So now in the parameter I am giving an parameter that is x. So now if I uh, am giving the value of x as 10 in the function. Now if I am printing my x, let me call the function. So I would be calling it. So when I call my function and I'm printing it, it would give me an error because I have not defined my positional argument. Sorry, we are printing it. Suppose I return my value. Let me rewrite my function. There is some issue. Suppose I am taking it as 10. Now if I am printing my x and I'm calling my function. Now if I print my function, so it would return me 10. Now we will see what we have done. So basically in starting we have defined a function as I have told you how to define a function. In that function we have taken the value of x as 10. So now uh, when I return the value of x, it would be 10. Now as soon as the function ends, the value of x that is 10 also ends. So if I try to print any other value, like I was trying to print x when I was calling, so it would give me error because x is only defined in the function. If we try to print change the value of x outside the function, uh, it would give an error because it is a local variable and would only print the value which is defined inside our function. So the values which we define inside the function and are basically you can say and basically doesn't exist after the function ends are called our local variables. Now take a case of global variable. Now I would be doing global variable. Now what happened in global variable? Before defining the function, we are defining our value of x. That is, suppose we take 10. Now, if I have a function, let's suppose this, and which is taking some value x. Now, if I print my x, so when I would print it, first it would print 10. Now, suppose I make another function, that is fun2, sorry. So, when suppose now in local variables we have defined the value of x inside the function. Now in global variable we are defining the value of x outside the function so that we can assess the value of global variable by taking it inside the function. So how can we take the value of x which is outside the function inside our function now? So how can we take it? By using a keyword that is global. and we would write our variable name, that is x. So when I take global x, and now I want to change the value of x, so I can easily change my value of x like this, and now I can print my x as well. Now I would simply call my both the functions. Now if I try to run it, it is giving me some error due to global x. Let me encounter this error. Basically, first we have took a variable x which is storing some value. Okay, so I have not returned my value here. I guess so. Okay. Now I have finally solved the bug. So now if I explain you, we have defined earlier our global variable, that is x. Now when I first print my first I see my function 1. So in this it would simply print 10 because we are printing x, and the control goes to function 1 and it would simply print 10. Now when we move to function 2, so we are exporting our global value, that is 10. Uh, so we are basically you can say exporting our global keyword, and after that we are using our variable name, that is x. So inside the function we can change our value with the help of global variable, but in local variables, if one value is defined inside the function, there are two cases. Then it first it would remain inside the function, and second it would not change. But in global variable, like we have defined a value before our function, so it can be changed by using our keyword global. So now on we have changed our value to 25 by using global variable. So when I print my x, now it would give 25 in the function called 2. So if I now print it, okay, so we have to call our function here because the function ends. So, okay, we didn't have given the value in our function call, which we have to keep in mind. Okay, here also. It was a major mistake, but still. Let me see what we have. So now you can see. Let me revise the code once again. First of all, we have defined a variable, that is x, and given its value as 10. So in the function 1, we are taking x as parameter and we are printing our x. So now when I would call my function for x, it would simply print 10. Now, in the second function, let's suppose we have to change the value of 10. Why we are able to change this? Because we have defined our variable before the function starts. So we would use our keyword global, and in that we will write the variable name, that is x. So I would now changing the value x to 25 from 10. Now I would simply print my x and call my function with no variables because I have already printed it. So it is giving the output first 10 due to function call 1 and 25 due to function call 2. So this was our global variable. Now we would be doing recursion. Now what is recursion? Basically, you have to see recursion very carefully because it is a very important topic and most children find it difficult. But we will do it in a very simpler way so that no one would find it difficult. So what basically is recursion is basically a function is calling itself again and again. So you can say its definition is a function is calling it again and again. Function is calling itself again and again. Let me cover it with a very simple example. With the help of a factorial example. Suppose we have a you can say function def factorial, and we have a number n for which we have to find the factorial. So we simply write return n into fact of factorial of n minus 1. Now, why do we do this? So basically, first you can see we have defined our function for a parameter n. Now why we are doing returning n into factorial of n minus 1? So basically, if I have a function, suppose in here, let me try this, explaining you. So suppose I want to print the factorial of 5. So you know factorial of 5 is 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1. This is our factorial. Now, so you can see that first our number itself is called, that is 5. Then a number lesser than it is called, that is n minus 1. That is another time the function calling itself is calling 3, which is n minus 2. Next time the function is calling itself by n minus 3. In this way a function is calling it again and again. So basically it is calling itself in a loop again and again. So that's why we say recursion is that function is calling itself again and again. This can we can also see this in the case of adding numbers of first five natural numbers. We will take the example later on, but right now we can see that a function is calling again and again itself. First 5, then 4, then 3, then 2, then 1. Every time it is getting a number lesser. So first we will say return n, which is our number itself for which we have to find our factorial. The next time we would say find the factorial of n minus 1 terms, so that after simply multiplying it we can get our factorial. Now after 1 it should call 0, so our factorial would become 0. To stop that we use a base condition. Now what is a base condition? Base condition is to stop our factorial to stop our recursion. We use the base condition. Now what base condition do is uh, if we didn't apply base condition, it would infinitely run the loop. It would go to 0, minus 1, minus 2, minus 3. It would infinitely run the loop. So there would be a stopping condition, you can say, which is necessary to stop our factorial. So in this we would write if our n becomes 0 or n becomes 1. So we have to return 1. So we would be returning 1 when n becomes 0 and 1. Else. Else we have to simply print our this statement n into factorial of n minus 1. Now suppose I am printing it. Okay, so we haven't take any number as input. So let me take n as input. Now if I take a number input, suppose 5, the factorial, it would be returning, okay. Let me check where we are lagging. So, okay. So let me first take value in this. Okay. I am basically trying to find where we are lagging. Okay. So we are lagging at a specific point. Okay, so I have find the error. We aren't calling the function right now. So if I call my function, okay, first I have to take n as input from the user. Then I would be calling my function. Still it is not printing because we have not included it in a variable. Now surely it would print. Now you can see. Actually I got little bit confused. Sorry for that. But yes, now first let me explain the code from very beginning. Now first of all we will take a integer n for which we have to find the factorial. Now we would be writing our factorial n function. So in that we want a stopping condition where the recursion finally stops, and this stopping condition, that is when n becomes 0 and becomes 1. This is called our base condition. I can also write here. Sorry. If I write here after a gap, it is a base condition, you can say. I can, if I try to comment, let me print this same line in the upper line. Yeah. So this was our base condition at which recursion stops. So we know if n becomes 0, so after that n would become minus 1. It would run an infinite loop, and we know infinite loop is dangerous. Dangerous in the sense it can simply uh, lag our system or can basically our system can hang, sorry. So we would require a base condition and we have told that it would return 1. Else we have simply printed our factorial. Now where I was lagging was that I didn't print the factorial afterwards. So we have to print the factorial, and for what value? For value 5. So I would call my factorial function for value 5 and would simply print factorial by taking it in a variable. So this was the factorial example. Now suppose I have to print the sum of first 5 natural numbers. So I would be writing sum of first 5 natural numbers. Now how can we do that? So it is very simple. The sum of first 5 natural numbers. In this also we will doing recursion. How? First the function would call itself for 5, then a number lower than it 4, then 3, then 2, then 1. So basically the function is calling itself again and again. You can see first for 5, then 4, then 3, then 2, then for 1. So it is calling again and again. And in this cases we use our recursion method. So what we would be doing, suppose we have to uh, you can say we can give the heading sum of first and natural numbers. Suppose we are taking another input from the user for which we have to find the sum of first and natural numbers. Now we would use def natural underscore number, you can say. Now the most important thing which I forgot to tell you was that while defining our function name, we use the same rules that I have told you while we have defined variable names. So def natural number, now we would be entering our n parameter. So in this also there is a base condition, but if n becomes 1 or 0, it would return, no sorry, if n becomes 0, it would return 0. If you can say sorry, else it would return our n plus the sum of n minus 1 terms. Now if I try to call my function for first the sum of first 6 natural numbers, so I can simply print and the answer I guess would be 21. So if I say sum of first 6 natural numbers, okay, so we have not call our function, that is natural number. Now if I print it for first 6 natural numbers, the answer is 21. So we can afterwards define as well our argument, but in end we can also define, but the argument which we have defined afterwards would be considered as I have told you earlier. So this was another question of recursion. So in this manner recursion is done. You can also do it for multiply, and if you have any doubt you can simply ask in the comment section. And I have uploaded earlier videos as well on Python, and if you have any doubt let me ask in the comment section. So and I am making a Python playlist in which there I would be covering each and every topic of Python. So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so that you will get the notifications of Python. Since programming is very important, as you all know, so try to try to make my videos reach to maximum users so that everyone can access it. And for any doubt, for any resources or anything, you can just simply comment me and I would be uh, pasting it in the description box. Also, I have pasted the link of my playlist in the description box, so you can simply just access it. Now we have also done recursion. So in the next class we would be covering our next topic, that is objects and classes, which is also a very important topic in Python. So till then, bye and thank you for attending this useful lecture. And don't forget to revise all the concepts and practice uh, questions side by side. And have also told you platforms like Geeks for Geeks and Lead Code for doing practice. And if you want uh, another topic to be covered, for example, you want web development topics to be covered like HTML, CSS, so you can tell me. So thanks for now.